Hi everyone, and welcome to Hontora. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is the place where we explore the darkest, most deeply unsettling true horror stories the internet has to offer. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Genuinely glad you're here. When I finished reading the second story, I closed my laptop and sat in silence. Didn't move, didn't reach for anything. That has never happened. Never. Links at the top of the description. 2 stories tonight. The first one creeps. The second one just lands. No warning. And it hasn't left me since. Comments open when it ends. Get somewhere quiet. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm an accountant who got laid off and spent 14 months applying to jobs before I took a 6-month contract as a fire lookout in a national forest. I say that up front because I need you to understand. I am the least mystical person you'll ever hear tell a story like this. I track spreadsheets, I reconcile numbers, I believe in things I can source and verify. That's the lens I brought up that mountain. It wasn't enough. The posting was straightforward. Isolated tower, roughly 40 miles from the nearest town, accessible by a forestry road that turned to gravel about 8 miles in. My predecessor had transferred, that was the exact word in the contract paperwork, no details beyond it. The agency rep who did my onboarding over the phone was pleasant, efficient, and answered exactly the questions I asked without volunteering anything extra. I didn't think much of that at the time. I arrived on a Tuesday in early October. The tower was small and functional. A cab on stilts with a wraparound deck, a cot, a 2-burner propane stove, a radio, and a view of about 60 square miles of ridgeline in every direction. It smelled like someone else's life. Coffee, wood smoke, something faintly chemical I couldn't identify. The previous ranger had left things tidy. Almost too tidy the way a hotel room is tidy. Surfaces cleared. Nothing personal left behind. No trace of occupancy except the smell and a faint impression in the cot mattress. The logbook was in the desk drawer. Standard issue. Green cover, agency seal, lines for date, time, weather conditions, smoke sightings. I flipped through it to find the last entry so I'd know where to start. The final recorded date for my predecessor was September 28th. Routine entry. Clear skies. No activity. Nothing unusual. I almost closed it there. But the pages after that entry weren't blank. 8 more entries, dated from October 14th through November 3rd, written in handwriting that I recognized. Before I understood why I recognized the specific slant of my 7s, the way I close my lowercase e, the pressure pattern I've had since I learned cursive in 3rd grade and never fully shook. My handwriting. Dated weeks? I hadn't lived yet. I sat with that for a long time, long enough that the light shifted and I hadn't moved. I went through every rational door I could find. Coincidence of penmanship, impossible, unlikely. Someone who'd studied my handwriting? Possible. Requiring access I couldn't account for. A prank by the agency? Possible. Motivation unclear. I kept opening doors and finding walls behind them. Then I read the entries. The first 4 were mundane. Weather logs, a smoke sighting on the eastern ridge that resolved to a permitted burn. A note about the radio cutting out on day 2. Things that hadn't happened yet. Small things. The 7th entry was dated October 29th. It described finding something on the access road. A vehicle, parked at the base of the tower trail with the engine running and nobody inside. It described the make and color. It described the license plate, partial. It described what was in the back seat. I didn't finish reading it. I don't know if that was the right call or not. I closed the logbook, put it back in the drawer, sat on the edge of the cot, and talked myself through it methodically, the way I'd reconcile a ledger that didn't balance, line by line, assumption by assumption. By morning, I'd made a decision. I radioed the agency at 7 a.m., reported a welfare concern related to the previous ranger and a potential documentation irregularity, and requested that someone drive up. The rep I reached said she'd pass it along. The tone in her voice, not alarmed. Something closer to careful. The kind of careful that means someone's already been briefed. Nobody came that day. On day 2, I started down the access road myself with my pack, my phone, and a screenshot of the logbook entries I'd taken at 2 a.m. when I'd gone back and finished reading them, despite having told myself I wouldn't. I got to my truck. I drove to town. I filed a report in person at the county sheriff's office and put the logbook on the deputy's desk and watched her read it. She asked me if I'd completed the full tour. I said no, I'd left after 2 days. She wrote that down. Then she asked, without looking up, whether the previous ranger had mentioned anything to me before I took the posting. I said I'd never spoken to the previous ranger. There'd been no handoff. She nodded slowly, set her pen down. There wasn't supposed to be, she said. The case is listed as open. I've called twice for updates. Both times I've been told there's nothing new to share. The agency terminated my contract without explanation and mailed me a check for the full 6 months. I've looked up the previous ranger's name twice and found nothing. No transfer record, no forwarding address, no social media, no professional profile. Nothing after September 28th. The 8th logbook entries, the last one dated November 3rd. I've read it maybe 40 times. It's 2 sentences. I'm not going to tell you what they say. Not because I'm protecting you from it, because one of them hasn't happened yet. I run an urban exploration channel. Have for 5 years. Abandoned factories, derelict hospitals, foreclosed malls. I've been in all of it. My co-host, Danny, handles the camera. I handle the research and the driving. We're methodical about it. We check structural safety reports. We file location plans with someone back home. We don't go into anything that looks actively unstable. I say this because I need you to understand we're not reckless people. We're not the type to spook easily. The town had been dead since 1963. A mine collapse took 31 workers and the economy with it. No recovery effort, no rebuilding. The company folded, the families left, and the place just stayed. Buildings still standing. Church still had its sign out front. It was about 4 hours off the interstate, down a county road that turned to gravel for the last 12 miles. And we'd been planning the trip for 2 months. We got there on a Friday afternoon, shot for about 3 hours. The company offices, the commissary, the row of identical worker houses with their identical porches, rotting at identical angles. Good footage. The kind of quiet that photographs well, where the emptiness has a specific weight to it. We packed up around 6, got in the car, and I punched the GPS for the route back to the interstate. It took us in a circle, 40 minutes of driving, county roads, gravel switchbacks, one paved stretch that I was sure was new, and we came back around the south end of town. Same water tower, same collapsed feed store. I figured I'd made a wrong turn somewhere, reset the GPS, and tried again. Same result. Danny said maybe the signal was bouncing off terrain. I said probably. We tried my phone, his phone, the paper atlas I keep in the back, because I'm the kind of person who keeps a paper atlas in the back. The atlas confirmed we should have hit the interstate 40 minutes ago. We were still in town. Third loop, Danny had the camera up. Partly habit, partly because filming something gives you the feeling of doing something useful when nothing useful is available. We parked and reviewed the footage while we thought through options. That's when he found it. Background, second location, the commissary exterior. A man standing in the open doorway we'd filmed 20 minutes before entering. Dark clothing, facing the camera directly, completely still. We hadn't seen anyone go in. We pulled footage from the church. Different man, same posture, facing the lens. I went back through everything we'd shot methodically, the way you'd audit a spreadsheet, telling myself it was locals, telling myself the buildings weren't as empty as we'd assumed, telling myself there was a rational explanation for why none of these people had spoken to us or moved or done anything a living person ordinarily does. By the 7th clip, I stopped telling myself anything. 14 figures, 14 different locations, always in the background, always facing the lens, never in the foreground, never moving, just present, the way furniture is present. I didn't say anything to Danny. He didn't say anything to me. We both just sat with the laptop between us in the front seat of a car that had failed to leave this town 3 times, watching a slideshow of people who were not supposed to be there. I drove south. No GPS, no map, just the sun going down on my right and my foot heavier on the accelerator than I've ever driven in my life. Danny had both cameras running. We hit the interstate 40 minutes later. I don't know what changed. I don't know which turn was different from the 3 I'd already made. I pulled into the first gas station I found and sat in the parking lot for a while without getting out. We posted none of the footage. I've thought about that decision a lot since, and I keep arriving at the same answer. I don't want whatever's in those frames to be seen more widely than it already has been. That might sound irrational. For me, right now, it's the only thing that feels like the right call. I sent the files to a friend who does documentary work. Asked him to look at the background figures specifically to see if there was any technical explanation, lens artifacts, compression errors, something. He came back 2 weeks later and said the figures were physically present. No artifacts, no errors. Real people or something occupying the space where a real person would stand. He asked where we'd filmed. I gave him the name of the town. He went quiet. Then he said he'd found a 1963 newspaper archive. The collapse, the 31 names. He sent me 1 page. The man in the commissary doorway was in the photograph, 4th from the left in the company portrait, name printed underneath. He'd been in the ground for 60 years. I haven't driven a county road since that. I don't check the GPS twice, not because I'm worried about getting lost, because I'm worried about where it might take me instead.